Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of Straight Talk Whiskey. I'm Nick here with you as always. Thanks for joining us for episode number 98. So, this week in continuation with our mini-series on Jim Beam, we've got another liqueur for you. We've got the Jim Beam Red Stag. So, this, as far as flavor profile, which may not be evident by the name, as the Jim Beam Vanilla or other flavors that are in there, apple I believe, and some other ones. So the Red Stag is actually going to be a black cherry liqueur, is what you're going to be getting. So just like the other liqueurs that it has, bottled at 35% ABV, so 70 proof. And we've got some dark ripe black cherry liqueur that's infused with the Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, which would be right here. Go back and watch that should you choose. And so let's get right into it. So going for the nose. Now the first thing when I nosed this is I got, if you can remember back to those lollipops that, I forget the brand that they were, but they're just super sugary. They have the bubble gum inside instead of the chocolate. I forget what they were called, but the flavor of the grape in there is definitely what I'm getting on the nose of this liqueur. So it's very sweet, very sugary, definitely a lot of those of grape and dark cherry, licorice are coming through. Just very, very, very sweet. Now, I'll be honest with you, because the last three expressions of Jim Beam, including the Kentucky Straight Bourbon, just the standard entry line, I've actually enjoyed a lot. And in terms of the vanilla, which is the other liqueur that we've done so far in the mini-series, I really enjoyed that. I felt like it took the vanilla to another level than what you just think is, oh, it tastes sort of like vanilla, but no, the vanilla actually had a really robust vanilla character to it that was relatable to actual, good quality vanilla that you may find. So, in comparison to that, the black cherry liqueur that I'm getting from the Red Stag, I'm not overly crazy about. And you'll have to tell me if you think otherwise. But it comes off as really medicinal. And it tastes like the flavored cough syrups that you've had as a kid, or maybe you still take. I don't anymore. Especially tasting like this, it just reminds me 100% of cough medicine. So, the mouthfeel is very syrupy. It's got a lot of grit and texture to it, but it's just overtly medicinal note that you know from drinking cough syrup is just a little off-putting and doesn't line up particularly with the flavor. I would say you get a better profile of the black cherry in terms of, other than just getting black cherry, but black cherry cola or something like that, where you get hints of it, but it's not overpowered by a sweetness or a sugary attributes from it. So this, not really my favorite. I don't even know if I'll finish this whole thing, to tell you the truth. It doesn't have a very ripe, dark, black cherry note that it says it should have. But for me, personal preferences, not a huge fan of that. And like I said, overly, I can't even get this open, overly medicinal, not enough. I think they would have gone a little bit further with subtlety on that one. I can see this being purely a good mixer, and I say good because you can sort of choose where you want to go to tone down that note or to keep it like it is. Now, like the vanilla, they suggest that you should serve it chilled. So maybe it tastes better when it's actually chilled. I don't know. Maybe it being at room temperature is giving too much similarities or making me remember what the cough syrup was like. Because, you know, when we're tasting these things and we're pulling notes, you know, if you've never smelt clove or something like that in its natural form, and you go to a tasting event and you're like, oh, I'm getting a strong sense of clove in there. It's, you know, you're not pulling from experience. A lot of this is experiential. And so when you have something so powerful as the, you know, the staple of every American home of this really sugary cough syrup, you know, that you down to try to get over an illness, then instantly when you have that, I think that you'll be reminded of that. And a lot of that was not great experiences, hence in connection to the liqueur not having a great experience. So it's interesting how those things work. But let's take our friend here, the Devil's Cut, which again is bottled at 90 proof, right? The Devil's Cut being a portion of this whiskey extracted from the physical barrels themselves and the whiskey that gets infused in there, and mixing that with a little bit more aged version of Jim Beam's Kentucky Straight Bourbon. So don't be fooled by the Devil's Cut. It's not cask strength or barrel strength as people may think. That's what I initially thought from looking at the label. Just Devil's Cut. Never heard of that before. Must refer to barrel strength. Does not. 90 proof. So let's see what it does. And again, this isn't about mixing drinks or anything like that. I just want to see if there is anything that changes a bit just by adding some more higher proof straight whiskey to it. Straight Kentucky bourbon. In a very odd and strange way, the mixture of those two and the proportions that I did, which obviously were not that precise, it makes it taste more like cola than anything, but sort of on the flatter side, like you've poured a can of cherry cola out into a glass and left it sitting for about 35 to 40 minutes. You got to be exact on those times. So, yeah, that I don't even know if I like that either, to tell you the truth. So, you know, just because we can, and just because you're watching at home, now it pains me to do this because I do really like the vanilla. As you can tell, the fill on that is almost down to nil, and this bottle will be gone before you know it. So I'm going to add a little bit because you never know. You know, the more diverse your beverage is, not always the better, but we can hope. Might need to just go in the freezer and see if that's what's really going to help this out. So, I think the vanilla's neutralized a lot of that cherry cola note because I'm not getting that strong sugary sense. Does the vanilla help out? In a way, it takes down the flatness of it and just eradicates any sense of, you know, whether it's the alcohol content of the Devil's Cut, which is giving it that sort of appearance of carbonation, which is actually, you know, that alcohol bite that we all know and love. And it's taking that down and nullifying all that out. So I don't know if it really helps or not because it's not contributing in terms of flavor. It's more just mouthfeel and experience out of that. So we're going to set this aside. Who knows what'll happen to it? Maybe it'll go down the drain. Maybe it'll go in the freezer. Maybe, you know, some bozo next door wants it. Who knows? So anyway, for episode number 98, the Jim Beam Red Stag, we had high hopes for you, buddy, but you're just not putting par, or whatever the hell the golf term is. So, anyway, I'm going to give it a score of 65, because nobody ever scores things that low, but I'm going to. And that's personally my preference. You may think it's the greatest thing out there. You may have it with every single meal, including breakfast. You know, you do you. So, that's it for episode 98. I hope you'll stick around with us for next week's episode, which is going to be yet another continuation of the Jim Beam mini-series. You got a lot of products out there, and most of them are great. So this is just the one little outlier for me personally, but I'm looking forward to trying some other things from them because I have been pleasantly surprised and pleased in the past. So with that, as always, if you're going to drink responsibly, and we'll see you next time.